Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm gonna be testing for Solis on the ROG Ally. So thanks to Fallen Leaf for providing a code of the game. They released a performance update, so I wanted to check the game out because I didn't have the chance. We start at 30 watts on 1080p performance FSR 3 and the medium preset, because from medium to low the performance difference is like 1 or 2 frames at the most, and I don't know, I think medium is the best of both worlds, believe it or not. So 30 watts, performance FSR on 1080p. And as you can see, there's drops below 30 FPS, which in this game, I think having a 30 FPS target is the way to go. Just because, well, it's more of a cinematic-ish game, to say it in some way. Unfortunately, it still drops into the mid-20s. Again, we're on 1080p on a portable machine. At 30 watts, we should be plugged to the wall though. Just my advice. So with drops like this, I'll just drop to 900p. But again, this is more like a cinematic kind of game. Very little interaction so far. I mean, I've been just mostly moving around and pressing prompts on screen. But on 1080p performance FSR looks very good, especially on the smaller screen. And again, it's UE5, so I think I went a little bit overkill with the resolution. So instead of sticking to upper 20s, low 30s, let's drop the resolution to 900p. Alright, so now at 900p we keep the same settings: FSR performance, medium settings, at 30 watts. And this gives us basically 30 FPS. Game looks pretty good. Some artifacts from FSR are visible, but on the smaller screen should be okay, as long as they're plugged into the wall for the 30 watts. And even on medium settings, I think the game looks pretty good. In comparison to Steam Deck, that I had to do ultra performance FSR 3 at 720p to get even close to 30 FPS. So my advice for this one, if you're plugged to the wall, is to do basically 900p with performance FSR 3, and you should be good to go. So yeah, let's now do 720p and see what we can dig out of it. Now dropping to 720p, we can actually increase the FSR 3 to quality at medium settings. Well, while looking at the demanding part, which is this direction, because if I turn the camera around, it highly increases the frame rate. There is intensive sections like this. Not sure why here it drops so much, but it does. But I would say this is the quote-unquote best way to play it on the ROG Ally. 720p quality FSR, and you get decent visuals. The smaller screen, the UI might look a little bit blurry, but I think that's okay considering it's a very visually intensive UE5 game. Graphically intensive, better said. And now, before you ask in the comments, yeah, we're going to try frame generation. Wasn't amazing on Steam Deck, but let's see how frame gen fares here. It should basically double the frame rate, and let's see if there's any. Okay, there's artifacts. Not sure if you can notice. Around the characters mostly. So this implementation of frame gen, unless you're hitting the 40 FPS range, I wouldn't say is perfect. Yeah, especially around there's a lot of contrast between the background. Yeah, there in the helmet I can see it. So while you get a pretty good higher frame rate, and the latency is not an issue because this is a very slow-paced game, there is artifacting pretty often. So I wouldn't recommend frame gen on this one. At least not at 720p or at a low frame rate. So let's now unplug the charger and see how it runs at 20 watts. Alright, we're now in handheld. and I'm basically at 720p medium settings, quality FSR 3. Since we're portable, we're doing... Oh, sorry, let me disconnect the charger. We're at 20 watts instead of the 30 watt thing. Obviously, we want to keep battery life as good as possible, so medium settings, 720, quality FSR 3, and actually on the smaller screen, I can't complain, it looks great. And you should be getting basically a little over 70 minutes of battery, an hour and 20 minutes, I would say, maybe. This part really does drop frames, but after this part, it's been okay. It's usually when looking where this character is at the beginning. But again, we're playing portable now, 20 watts. That's why the performance difference between 20 and 25 and at 30 watts is pretty big, but again, battery life. And it's basically a walking simulator, so shouldn't be a big issue. And it looks very crisp on the smaller screen. Just the UI is a bit blurry because it's 720p. But when I'm moving around, it's been okay. If you want, you can actually lower it to balanced FSR, if you don't mind a little bit more fuzziness, to say it in some way, some extra blur. So yeah, as you can see right now, I basically just pushed one button. Still nothing. So again, 30 frames on this game with some drops into the upper 20s, not a huge deal. Quality FSR at 720p looks good on the smaller screen. Again, not like on the Steam Deck that we need 720p plus ultra performance FSR to get actually close to 30 FPS. It's a big improvement in my opinion. Although I'll probably play it plugged in at 1080p at performance, well, 900p with performance FSR. The game still looks great though. I mean, it's Unreal Engine 5, it's hard to get visuals wrong, you never know, but still. Would I recommend this on the ROG Ally? Hell yeah. As long as you're playing at 720 with quality FSR and medium settings, you should be good to go. Looks good, performs okay, some sections drop into the upper 20s. But again, we're basically walking around and pushing buttons. not much action over here. But I don't know why, just while looking at this section is when I drop frames the most. After that, it's been completely fine. So I'm not sure what's wrong with the very beginning of the game. But there we go. Playable? Yeah, definitely. It's playable because we got basically a walking simulator over here. What matters here is the plot, basically. You can also do frame generation, but doesn't look particularly great in this game for some reason. There's a lot of artifacting, so while you can use it and it's enabled by default on the Steam Deck, I don't think it looks good enough. Too much artifacting if you're below 40. And here, as you can see, I'm not even driving. So yeah, story-based game, 30 FPS is fine. I would play it like this, really. It looks pretty good, even at 720p quality with FSR 3. And at 20 watts, you get basically 1.5 hours of battery, give or take. 30 watts is being drawn by the battery, 20 watts by the GPU, sorry, by the APU. And you can probably drop it to 18 watts if you don't mind more drops below 30 FPS, but I'll keep it at 20. Battery life is good enough for a very high graphics game like this one. And well, not much else to say about this. Unreal Engine 5, super demanding, got a performance patch. Not sure how it ran before this patch. Probably was. So if there was an improvement, it was good enough to play this on the ROG Ally at a decent frame rate and quality. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did taking a first look around it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.